Hey, I'm Pops. Talk to you about Local Man, another comic book review from a book that I got off to a really good start. Wanted to give you an update on it. Issues number 2 and 3, kind of go through that and hit some high points for Gary, what I think. So, Local Man, here we go. Let me get this big up here for you guys. So you get an idea what we're talking about. So, issue number 2. So, here's the premise. The premise is very similar to The Boys. You're going to hear me say something like that probably regularly. That's what I'm taking back to. I feel like this is an image version of that where you have a superhero team that's sort of out there. We don't know a whole lot. There have been some random sort of like character introductions, and they kind of show up abruptly in issue number 1 because this character named Jack, he's gone back to his local town. He's not allowed to use his superhero moniker anymore. He's kind of like the loser living with his parents. He ends up with like a bar conflict out of the blue, and then that super villain turns up murdered. And that's kind of how things shake up in the very beginning of this book. Is sort of like what happened to this character and where were you the whole time. So the police show up, of course, and they think that he's a suspect. Why wouldn't they? Right? He's a superhero. This was sort of a arch nemesis and all of that. And they take him in for questioning. He's barely dressed, by the way, which is kind of funny. And then basically he says, yeah, call Inga, your wife. Call her. She's my alibi. Now, the sheriff doesn't even know they know each other, let alone that they were having like a little lunch together. They weren't doing anything naughty. They had some sort of relationship previously. And then there's like the images of the murder. There's all that kind of stuff. And it hits him very, very hard. And he starts throwing up. And you see him on this mural where you have it sort of like home of Crossjack, right? That's him right there in the center with that big X on his shield, that kind of thing. And in that first issue, they have this moment warning him, like you're not allowed to not only use your Crossjack moniker, you're not allowed to use a shield, you're not allowed to fight crime, you're not allowed to investigate, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of the backstory of where we're in all of this is like this murder. He's sort of like loosely considered a suspect. And then you transition into this scene, and there's like this drone. So this drone shows up, and now suddenly there's this drone following him around. He's trying to walk his dog, and it's like giving him different commands and different kind of prompts and those kinds of things. Very irritating everywhere he goes. And he basically, it's like something's not quite right. He's going through visiting this. This is basically Hodog's mom, the dude, the supervillain that died, right? Hey Dog. And the dude is like very mentally off. I'm not going to say he's mentally. It's like we're not quite sure what's going on there, but he'd drawn these pictures. He respected Crossjack, and the mom doesn't really hold any regrets, doesn't really blame him for anything and that kind of thing. But he really feels like there's a couple of clues here that something is not quite right. There's that old phrase like something's rotten in Denmark kind of thing. That's pretty much how the story is going to go and kind of play out a little bit. He has to figure out how he's going to ditch that drone. He has to figure out how he can kind of get out there. And that's kind of how everything sort of wraps up in issue number 2. And at this point, I thought to myself, it's still okay. There's still not like a ton to go on. It's a lot of setup, right? We have a lot of setup. So issue number 3, I'm like, all right, well, we're going to kick it up a little bit. I think we're going to see a little more in issue number 3. It's what we're going to see. And I think what we see might surprise you a little bit because it wasn't really what I expected. I don't know if that's going to be good or bad, or if you guys want to get in like I am. I'm not, I don't know, but here's my thoughts on it. It was the art was interesting, right? I thought that the cover art was different, and so you have this character, and basically you have her persona and then her alter ego. And that's what we're seeing here with this. So this is the title page and all of that. Let me get over here to the full version of this so you can see what I'm seeing. There's our credits. That kind of, so basically he ditches the drone and takes a ride like an Uber, the equivalent of like an Uber. And the dude's like, and there's an ongoing joke after everywhere he goes, it's like F Crossjack. So that's kind of persist. And then of course the dog followed him. So the dog follows him. He sees this priest. And I think it was weird. Like, what building is he in front of with this big giant 4 on the front? Talk about like totally paying homage to some other stuff, right? Anyway, so there's an interaction with this priest before he goes and he talks to this woman. Now, she knows who he is. His name is Stacy. Her name is Stacy. And you have this look of what her personas are, like this thing that's inside of her. It's called the fright. And it's very dangerous. It's very ominous. It's difficult to control. And he basically picked up this clue. This was the clue that was in Hey Dog's place and that kind of thing, and starts to kind of understand what's going on. Now she kind of blows it all off. She knows who he is, and she starts lighting up her cigarette and kind of mocking him a little bit. And then basically it's like, this is not what you think it is. And there's just a lot of this back and forth about everything. And she's like, listen, I have nothing to do with all this. I'm here and I'm going to stay for the funeral. What are you staying for? And then I'm back outside. You had this moment of something's about to happen because watched the dog, and then basically has this little conflict and saves the priest. And there's a little comment about God existing or not. And then you end up with this little climactic ending where something is going down and you don't totally know. And just kind of makes you want to get the next book, which I think we don't get enough of anymore. We don't get an interesting cliffhanger. We usually just get things that happen. Still very much a slow burn. I'm not sure how many issues they're planning for the entire, if it's like going to be an ongoing series, if it's just, if the story's going to end after a certain number of issues. I just feel like we don't really know a whole lot, right? There is a little moment that kind of points to that superhero team having to come to this little tiny town, refers to him as the local man, right? So again, I liken it to The Boys because I think there's a lot of those similarities that are very easy to draw. It's not a very complex metaphor that I'm making here. It's just something that's like everything about it is solid. I'm not trying to say this is grade A or anything like that, but it's a solid read. It's a solid story. Art solid. Storytelling's fine. Everything about it is okay. So that's kind of it. We'll see where we're at. I'm not sure I'll do issue 4 if I'll wait until 4 and 5. Just kind of playing that part by ear, but I'm enjoying where I'm at right now. So tell me what you guys think. Tell what you guys would like me to review, what you'd like me to spend some time on. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Pops.
Yeah. Right?